there's no way you're going to be the most shamelessly promotional human on this podcast.
What it is, what it do. This is Ramblin, your weekly Rams podcast that brings you inside of the team and news from around the NFL. I'm your host and team reporter, Sarina Morales, coming at you from Los Angeles, California. Your LA Rams are returning from their bye week, a little older, a little wiser, and preparing for a fun NFC West matchup, taking on the Seahawks at SoFi Stadium this Sunday. Joining the podcast today, you can find him all over NFL Network. He is a great reporter and writer, an even better human, and he just upgraded his phone. He no longer has to use his AirPods to talk to people and worry about his battery life. He is also a great follow on Twitter at Mike Silver. Can you hear me now?
I am vastly overrated, and keep it coming. I love that. That's the kind of intro that I could get behind. You want me to come back? I'm just going to remember, like, basking in the glow of my own hype. It was beautiful.
I even extended that hype to your phone, which, thank goodness you've upgraded, because it
was hanging by a thread. Sarina, the only thing cooler would be if you did that on the giant scoreboard at SoFi with fans present. So I'm like 2021, hopefully we can have a moment where you and I are on the scoreboard. I know you will be. And you thought you were going to take control of the podcast and ask me a question, but I'm actually going to start with a scoreboard story about the Rams, and you will appreciate this. So in the 2018 NFC Championship game, at the Superdome, noise was obviously one of the storylines going in.
Oh, yeah.
On my show, The Aftermath on NFL Network on Mondays, on the Monday after the divisional round weekend, I was asked about the potential for crowd noise being a distraction of the Rams, and I'd actually watched the Saints game the previous day with a couple of Rams players, and I had talked to some other Rams players, and they had all kind of said to me, listen, we played there, during the season, and it really wasn't that crazy, the noise. Like, it was loud, but we were fine. So I kind of conveyed that in a way that I thought was tactful, and basically said, yeah, the noise is the noise, but the Rams feel like they can handle it. Well, so the Saints start out with the ball. The Rams get it. There's a timeout, and I'm having a rough morning. My back had, gone out. I felt like I was, 100 years old, so I was, hopped up on ibuprofen just trying to be a G and gut it out. I'm with my colleagues Steve Weish and Jim Trotter, and I'm just kind of trying to get into the mode. All of a sudden, on the scoreboard at the Superdome, there is a clip from the aftermath of me talking about how the crowd noise is not that big a deal.
Oh, no!
Followed by the loudest roar I've ever heard, in 30 years of covering the NFL, and ceaseless. And I'm like, everyone's looking at me, which, let's be honest, I don't really mind being up on a scoreboard and having a clip of my show, but I was a little shook because I'm thinking, okay, one of two things is going to happen. The Rams are going to lose, and I'm going to get blamed by all my friends who play and coach for the Rams or work for the Rams because they all saw it. Or the Rams are going to somehow win despite this crowd noise, and there's going to be a riot after the game, and I'm going to be walking out with drunken, mad Saints fans who recognize me and somehow believe that I hurt the Saints. So I'm freaked out, and I'm getting texts from, friends and family members of Rams players who are like, what did you do? Like, how could you do that? So, and then the game seemed to get away. It was 13-0 and getting louder. So I had a super scary juncture where I thought that my self-absorption was going to was going to cross with an actual NFL game's outcome, and it was not going to end well for me.
You and the Rams are no longer allowed in New Orleans, just to put it lightly.
Yeah. Fast forward a few hours later, and I was on the field as the Rams were celebrating that field goal in overtime. And then my only worry was trying to disguise myself in New Orleans until I got out of town.
Hide behind Jim Trotter and Steve White. That's always the yeah. Oh dear, get me out of here.
But you weren't that bummed out. You were kind of like, I better not be recognized, but I'm going to the Super Bowl. You were good. Right.
Well, speaking of loud stadiums, the Rams they're not playing in Seattle. They're playing in a quieter stadium at SoFi, which we can't wait to have fans at very soon, hopefully. But the Seahawks are a very good team, Mike Silver. Let's put it lightly. However, they are a beatable team, and I've seen that now. We've seen that twice. What are your thoughts on this matchup, Rams-Seahawks at SoFi Stadium? The Rams are undefeated at SoFi right now.
Well, I'm really excited about the second half of the season for the Rams, and I'm one of the few people who actually thought they were going to be good this year, and you guys may be among that small group too. And
we're biased here.
I've been wrong about a lot of things, and people let me know about it. But every once in a while, I get one right. So I think they could get better. I think when Van Jefferson and Cam Akers get further integrated into the offense, that's going to be a big boost. I love schematically what Brandon Staley has done on the defensive side, and I think there's room for growth there as they continue to acclimate to the system. And I thought that Buffalo game was a great opportunity to do something epic. Obviously, it ended on a sour note with the sketchy call at the end, but that comeback was super heartening. And that said, they're in a very, very tough division. Now, Seattle is very, very, very good, but it's kind of a paradox because the pass defense right now is not just bad, not just really bad, but like on pace to be historically bad. And I know there have been challenges associated with the surreal 2020 season that don't help pass defenses. Basically, any weakness you have in coverage is getting exploited, and there's no crowd noise to distract opposing quarterbacks or to hype up the defense. And so there's a lot of sitting duck potential, but it's obviously a concern. They blitzed a ton this last week in Buffalo. The pass rush was actually better even when they didn't blitz. I thought Carlos Dunlap gave them, some juice. But, we saw the Cardinals and the Bills kind of exploit that. Now, when not, in the other 6 games when the defense has needed to be good, it's kind of risen to the occasion. I was at the game week 2 in Seattle when it came down to naturally it being the Patriots and the Seahawks. It came down to the last yard and the last play, and Cam Newton and even without the crowd noise, and they made a stand against Minnesota to get the ball back and pull that game out dramatically. So I do think the Seahawks defense will get better as the year goes on, but it ought to be something that can be exploited, and I think you're going to see a lot of points in this one.
So that's funny you said that, because our buddy, Andrew Siciliano, joked with McVay this week, and he said, what is keeping you from just throwing the ball all day against the Seahawks on Sunday? And, obviously, Sean, he's going to do what he needs to do, and he's going to give you a very Sean McVay answer. But do you basically see that happening on Sunday?
It's interesting. I mean, I think Sean, one of the things he really, started doing last December going into that Rams game when they played so well and we're a couple of 3rd and 16s away from pulling that out. And into this season, he's kind of rethought the offense. And, Gurley wasn't himself or wasn't the old Gurley. They were forcing some things in the running game. And, I think he's, crafted a more holistic attack that is more in line with what he originally wanted to do, where, there is balance. You have the ability to run it. They look to people like Tyler Higbee for some of the screens and the short passes that had previously gone to Todd. And, less reliance on 11 personnel exclusively and changing things up. So I think they're in a better place in terms of balance. I thought one of the things that struck me coming out of the Buffalo game for the Seahawks is that Pete Carroll said afterward, we didn't think they were going to run it so little. We had a great plan to stop the run, and it never materialized. That's just a weird thing to hear Pete Carroll say because he's such a good strategist and, so prepared and has such a great feel for what his team does well and how to match up. So I thought that was kind of surprising that, they felt unprepared for that. And, I also talked to some people on the Bills side afterwards, and it was interesting. They said it's not like we went in thinking pass. They just blitzed so much that we were like, hey, we're going to take advantage and try to exploit the blitz. So in some ways, I think what the Seahawks did defensively led to the fact that they were passed against so much. So I would expect Seattle to adjust. And Jamal Adams getting more comfortable. When they get Griffin back, that may not be now, but when they do get Shaquille Griffin back, that ought to give them, a little help back there. And I think Trey Flowers is actually playing pretty well. So, I think the Seahawks will adjust, and I think Sean is smart. I don't think Sean will come in trying to replicate what the Bills did. I think he'll try to have balance, and I know he's excited about Akers and getting him involved too. I don't know if this will be the game. Last year I kept wondering, when are we going to get the Darrell Henderson game? And I was basically told going into that second Ram game, all right, you're going to see the Darrell Henderson game now. And then I think he sprained his ankle on literally his first touch, and it never materialized. So we've seen him now. I'm wondering if we'll get a little Akers, if not now, then pretty soon.
For sure. And Sean McVay has called his 3-back problem or good problem. It's like champagne problems. Like, we got 3 great running backs, and so at some point, Cam Akers will get his shine. Van Jefferson will get his shine, but there's no complaining when you've got 2 other guys that you can throw in and have them score points as well. When for the Rams to get to 6-3, will the defense win this game or will the offense win it?
That's a great question. I think it's going to be one of those high-scoring games where the defense that makes the big plays, whether that's a turnover or some sort of stand, can be very determinative. And, I think you want to hear that when you're, a defense that is basically 2 megastars and, 9 guys that don't get as much hype. And there are some very good players of those 9, right? Leonard Floyd is obviously a very high-level player, and there are guys who don't get as much hype nationally who've done some good things. But the combination of obviously Aaron Donald, as great as he's ever been, which is pretty great, and then what they've done with Jalen Ramsey from the Buffalo game on has been really inspired, and it's something I want to dig into on my show and talk about more publicly. And I know you are more hyper aware of it because you've seen it happen before your eyes. But conventional wisdom with a star shutdown corner that you pay like that is, we're just going to erase the best receiver on one side of the field or just one side of the field, and that makes everybody else's job easier. But, you know, a lot of times when that happens, those guys can get really bored. Teams just throw away from them. And, you know, if you want more bang for your buck, and you've got a player who is special like Jalen Ramsey and that you can blitz him, you can put him in the slot, you can get him more involved in the middle of the field and move by Sean and Brandon Staley to get Jalen in the mix more, and it just keeps him more engaged and keeps teams off balance. So you know, I think if you hear, hey, the defense is going to make a play here or there that can determine who wins this potential shootout, when you've got two absolute game changers like that back there, that is you know, that's music to your ears. So you know, it's a game I'll be watching closely from afar, and whoever wins it, these are two teams that, in my opinion, are legit Super Bowl contenders that I think have a lot of upside. For the Seahawks, it's really that defense rounding into form and Jamal Adams and what they can do as they start to cover up those weaknesses. And for the Rams, I think it's a combination of, you know, a greater comfort zone with a new defense, and then, you know, those two rookies on offense really having a chance to give it even more juice.
For sure. And speaking of the defense, what makes me happy, this is a shameless plug, Mike, but over the bye week, my feature came out on the assistant head coach and linebackers coach, Joe Barry, called it the man with the Trojan tattoo. You can find it at therams.com. Anywho, what makes me happy this week is actually learning the background of his USC Trojan tattoo that is smack in the middle of his left leg. And for those that do not know about this, Joe Barry basically said in 1992, when he was attending USC with a couple of teammates, stone cold sober, he went down to Sunset Boulevard, iconic Sunset Boulevard, and Sunset Tattoo, which I believe is still there and open. He went in and got this USC Trojan. And a lot of the other guys wanted the block SCs, like the Southern California SC block letters. But he was like, "No, I want this Trojan." But in his idea, like in his mind, ideal like scenario, he said he wanted it. This is like a 50-year-old football coach, by the way, now, who still has this tattoo smack in the middle of his left leg. But he wanted it lower because he wanted to cover it with a sock. And unfortunately, when he was facing the other way in the opposite direction of the tattoo artist, and he has his leg propped up, the tattoo artist put it in the middle of his leg. And 15 minutes into it, he looks back and he's like, "Dude, that's not where I freaking wanted it." And it was too late. And I just find that to make me very happy because I had no idea that was the story of his tattoo in the middle of his calf, but it is. And so, do you have anything to add? Do you have a tattoo? What do you think of Joe Barry? What do you think of coaches who have tattoos?
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, making that late night run in college in search of a Trojan, I feel like that could have been my college experience, perhaps. And I did not like USC. I went to Cal, and Joe and I managed to coexist despite that. I love the guy, but I hope everybody enjoyed that sexual innuendo there. That's the best I've got for you coming off, you know, that short notice. But yes, late night Trojan run, take it to a new level. Yes, I did read your story. Yes, it was awesome. Yes, you should be shamelessly promoting it. You are, after all, talking to me, and there's no way you're going to be the most shamelessly promotional human on this podcast right now. So that's absolutely understood and allowed. And, you know, Joe Barry is one of those great guys in football that doesn't get a ton of hype, and you know, he's been there with Sean this whole run, and you know, I think when Sean made the change to to get rid of Wade Phillips or to part ways with Wade Phillips after the season, there was a lot of thought that, well, Sean and Joe are very, very close. Maybe Joe becomes the new defensive coordinator. And, it obviously didn't play out that way. But, I can't think of a better human than Joe in a situation that might, I could feel awkward. I don't know whether it does or not, but that would never impact him. He is going to put his head down, do what's best for the team, stay cool with everybody, and, give everything he can to the cause, 24/7. And so, I've seen a ton of weirdness in my many, many years covering this league. I've seen people have to fire their friends and, pretty often, and all sorts of strange things like that. If this was ever going to feel weird, there's no way that someone as cool as Joe B would ever let it even come close to that. And that's just another great thing for a great coaching environment, as good as any coaching environment in football.
For sure. I'm with you. I love Joe B. It's great to have him, and I don't think he gets enough recognition on a day-to-day basis. So it's cool that I got to write this piece on him. Anyone who sees him with the tattoo, it's there, smack in the middle of his left leg. Quickly, we're getting to news from around the NFL. Why? This is going to make me laugh. It's going to make you laugh. The Cincinnati Bengals. I'm worried about this franchise. They haven't had a winning season since 2015. And then here comes their quarterback, Joe Burrow, smart guy from LSU, tough on the field. But apparently, and Matt's going to play this soundbite for us, but apparently he's not so tough off of it. Take a listen to this clip. You started laughing when he said he can't watch House, and that is what me and Matt were like, when did House become a scary enemy?
I was laughing at Harry Potter too. I mean, I read my kids every Harry Potter book, and I guess it got a little dark. But I would say this: one thing Joe Burrow's not scared of is flexing a little on social media, and that's kind of refreshing. And he also stood up for social justice and against racial injustice at a time when that voice was really, really needed. So I've talked to him on the phone. I've admired his game, but I really have high hopes for him as a guy who not only is going to be a very good player in this league for a long time, but someone who's going to stand for what's right and not be afraid to voice that. And I've seen Jared Goff really, really find his voice on those subjects in his last 6-7 months, and it's been awesome. So add another young quarterback to the list. It's very cool.
For sure. And that was more of a joking question. I think Joe Burrow's sky's the limit for this guy. A more serious question on the NFL, though. We've seen what Tampa Bay can be. We've seen what they can't be. So, Mike, with the Rams coming up on their schedule, they got Seahawks, and then they fly to Tampa Bay to face the Buccaneers. Which one of these is more reflective of their team when it comes to what they can and cannot do on the field?
Such a good question. And since I know you are going to tolerate a shameless plug, and it's not my last, but on my show, The Aftermath, which is noon to 3 Pacific every Monday on NFL Network, coming off that atrocity of a game against the Saints by the Bucs, I quoted the mayor of Philadelphia, and I said, it's time for the Bucs to put on their big boy pants. And, they have been super impressive at times, and they have a star-studded team. And we obviously know that Tom Brady and Gronk and Bruce Arians and JPP have been on the big stage and have done that. But, team-wise, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have not been able to do that for a long, long time. And here are the Saints who have kind of been, slopping through the season, and they don't look that good. And now it's a primetime game. And, you think Sean Payton and Drew Brees are capable of cranking it up in those moments? Yeah, they are. And, not only did the Bucs not match that, they just looked, just completely flaccid and helpless. So it's just one game, and they've looked utterly impressive at times, including against the Packers. But, you do wonder because, I think in a normal year, what Tom Brady was trying to do at 43, going to a new team, digging into a new offense, new cast of characters, it was going to be a lot, and it was going to be hard. And, and we've seen Aaron Rodgers now in year 2 with a new offense. It's year 2 is a lot different than year 1. But that was under normal conditions. Given the surreal lack of an offseason and then what passed for training camp with no preseason games, it's a big challenge. And teams that had continuity of coach, quarterback, and system on both sides of the ball were always going to be at a huge advantage. So that's the only thing I'll say about the Bucs. I've always thought it was going to take them a while. And so, this does not preclude them from continuing to gel and being pretty good, come early January.
For sure. A lot of changes going on this year. But one thing that doesn't change, Matt, you know what time it is? Nice. Like, where did green bean casserole become like a top side?
How can that be one of the 4? Like that shouldn't even be
correct.
40. Like cranberry sauce is low.
You're on the
so you want me to answer from that group, though, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that green bean casserole should even exist on that.
Well, so here's the thing. If stuffing is the big wild card, because good stuffing is like phenomenal, but stuffing could also be pretty sketch if it's not done right. And so that's why I'm going to go with the trusty mashed potatoes, and assuming that gravy is obviously heavily involved in the mashed potatoes. I'm going to say mashed potatoes are always good. Now, mac and cheese is phenomenal. I guess at my Thanksgivings we haven't done that, but mac and cheese is probably the best food on that list. But as far as my perception of a Thanksgiving side, I'm going to go with the mashed potatoes, assuming that gravy is obviously paired with that.
That's smart. Yeah, for the life of me, I was like, who put green bean casserole? I was throwing out Brussels sprouts because they make a solid Brussels sprout with bacon, thyme, rosemary.
I actually think I suspect what Sarina's real answer is. It's probably McAllen who would be the number one dish.
That's my main course every day, all day, is McAllen, who just came out with a very special new bottle. So.
You should have seen me Saturday morning, man. I was, I can't drink hard alcohol at your level. I usually would be more beer and wine, but I was hitting the bourbon very hard Saturday morning and loving it. It was beautiful.
That's why Mike Silver and I are friends. We both appreciate McAllen every once in a while. Okay, quickly to say what. So Sean McVay, during the bye week, What did he watch? Well, aside from football, I will play this clip for you on what he decided to watch with his fiance over the week.
I was able to just relax, get caught up on some sleep, do a little bit of football here and there, and actually started watching with my fiance This Is Us. Pretty good show, pretty emotional.
Pretty emotional. All right. Again, we've talked about Joe Burrow and great men being able to show their emotions and being scared, and I'm all for all of those things. But so I respect that. I've never seen the show. So, Mike, are you thumbs up on Sean's show choice for the bye week? Because I just started watching The Queen's Gambit, and I'm all in. I watched 3 episodes, and I'm like, yo, Sean, you're a strategy guy.
Right. I'm 3 into The Undoing, and it's fantastic. I just wish Sean and Veronica had talked to me because I would have probably tried to get them. Veronica is Ukrainian, and I would have said the Americans for many reasons, including the Cold War and Soviet overtones. I think that could have been a winner for them, and also Kerry Russell is unbelievably hot, and I know Sean would have I could have on the side told him that and been like, you don't have to mention that part to Veronica, but. If you're going to watch listen, I'm sure Mandy Moore is getting it done as well. And I'm sure the dudes in these shows are also hot. And I'm sure everybody, most actors are. But Kerry Russell's character in The Americans might be my favorite character ever in TV. Right up there with Tony Soprano and the all-time greats. So, I'm a massive fan. So but I'm glad that Sean did something other than watch either film or press conferences breaking down his intonations on the Zoom because all of that was probably on the table.
For sure. And she was like, no, let's just watch This Is Us. I'm with you. He watched. Oh wow. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna say that Sean threw Veronica under the bus in that press conference and made it sound like it was her idea. But I'm gonna say that Sean actually likes it more than Veronica on the down low. That's my suspicion that Sean is the one leaving the office maybe 23 minutes early just to get a jump on the next episode from here on out.
Yeah. I'll get through film a little quicker. No, that's great. Well, I recommend everyone watch The Queen's Gambit, and that's my other shameless plug. But Mike, before we go, I will have you shamelessly plug the Aftermath once more because I appreciate your time, and I want everyone to go and find you everywhere.
I have a more important shameless plug. And I'm sure you will be a guest on this very soon, Sarina, but my podcast, Pass It Down, that I do with my daughter Natalie, is available on all major platforms. Pass It Down. It's all over my social media feed. We just taped a very cool hungover post-election episode that's up now, and I'm having so much fun with a young lady who can only hope one day that she could match Sarina Morales' incredible public persona. But check it out, you guys. Pass It Down, and Sarina, you will be conscripted into this very soon.
I can't wait. I'll do it from my car and or any other vehicle or non-vehicle. I appreciate you. The fact that this podcast has been recorded from Mike Silver's car and my living room and Matt's living room. So we're just making things work during COVID times. But either way, I appreciate you, my friend. That's it. Another episode of Ramblin' in the books. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll be bringing you more episodes throughout the season. And if you're craving even more Rams podcasts, we've got Rams Revealed with JB Long, Rams Iconic with former Ram DeMarco Farr. We brought back Between the Horns. You can catch it every Thursday morning on YouTube, or you can stream it wherever you hear your podcast. Again, you got Aftermath, you got Mike Silver, you got all the podcasts in the universe. You will never be bored. We have shows and podcasts. This is our life. This is us. Bye, Silver.